nursing updates. We will get to the hearing on the animal farm regulation. We are waiting for Carter. We're required to, oh, you're here. Would you come up, sir?
Back of the bus is always a comfortable place.
Yeah, I know. Would you have a seat, sir? So, you're here, the Board of Health has to take a number of votes with regard to the trash removal regulation or procedure. And would you outline those for us, please? And then-
First, I want to thank the board and the staff for your work over the last few months, your diligence, and your sense of good humor as you face the issues and the crowds on your issues that will want to speak. Having looked with Annette tonight, as you know, the regulations you drafted were built around the pay-as-you-throw program continuing. I think certainly that was my understanding when I came into the position. I believe it was the message conveyed to this board. However, as the program evolved, the select board believed it was important to do away with that element of the program, and they've instructed me to seek a waiver from this board of that requirement. The simplest way to do it, after having talked with your staff, is Section 3A of your regulations requires that all waste must be placed in approved pay-as-you-throw bags prior to placement in a cart. I think that simplest way would be to magic asterisk, footnote, however you deem it best, parentheses, around the words, approved pay-as-you-throw, parentheses, P-A-S-Y-T. If those words were no longer in effect as of July 1, 2026, that is, from my view, the simplest way to resolve it going forward. I know some have suggested perhaps it should only be on a trial basis. I'll leave that up to this board. I think the balance of the program is quite workable for the next few months. As it evolves, as with any program, any set of regulations, they do evolve once you put them into effect, and you got to start working with them. And certainly I watched your last meeting with the gentleman before you, and I very much appreciated the emphasis upon education first. So happy to answer any questions, but as we discussed, I think that kind of putting a hold, magic asterisk, footnote, whatever, on those few words within that sentence would accomplish what I've been sent to you to seek.
I was under the understanding that there was 2 votes we had to take with regard to the, is that your understanding as well?
So I think after Carter and I spoke today, the one that we really need to address is this pay-as-you-throw. The other one is pretty inconsequential when it comes to our regulation and how the select board has decided to develop their program for the trash and recycling. So I think that, sticking to this one, and then like Carter said, there will be kinks for the town to work out as we roll out this program, and it could be worthwhile in a year that we come back and look and see if there are other areas of the regulation that need to be updated. But I think going the direction that Carter outlined and kind of putting that caveat to this one piece that it's effective until July 1st, 2026, will make sure that the Board of Health regulation and the program as designed by the select board are in alignment.
If I might speak, Mr. Chairman, to what I think you're referring to as the second piece. As you know, the 2 55-plus communities have had great concerns about their ability to store within their garages the containers that were being proposed. 95 and 65 plus or minus gallons. However, those associations have voted, and the select board has determined to honor the vote that they would get 32 gallon bins, both for trash and for recycling. Prior to that vote happening and that input from those two associations, we thought we might get requests from abutting units to, can we have one set of bins instead of two? And so I had put in the policy for the board, the possibility that based upon space, they could combine it. They'd still have to pay for the separate units. Now, given this move to the 32-gallon barrels, and the fact that we've got some months ahead of us, in fact, we met today on how many of which type and everything, I think we can put that one off to the side for a while and see how the program unfolds. So I think we're really just, you're right, there were two, but for tonight, I think we're just talking about the one, Bob.
Okay.
Can I say one thing or ask a question?
It's,
Yes.
The 32-gallon bins should be available to anybody over 65, not just the condos.
so, what we worked on today, what I had told the select board I would do, is we will buy some additional number of 32-gallon bins. We don't have that locked in just yet. We're thinking in terms of maybe 100. And because we don't know how many folks of our seniors are in those complexes, we don't know how many will actually want it. So we're gonna be ordering some number of those smaller bins. And when the bills go out on June 1, people will have an opportunity to fill out a form asking for the senior rate. And when they return that form with, proof they're really over 65 or someone in the household is, proof they actually own the property, and proof that they're residing there, water bill, sewer bill, we'll kind of sort that out. They can ask for the smaller bins. And subject to availability, we'll take that first, whatever it is, 75 or 100, and roll those out. We'll see how many more people want them, because we certainly don't want to order 600 of them, which is what we think the senior population is, if people don't really want them. It's both an expense and a storage problem. So those will be available on a first-come, first-served basis, and then we'll start to get a sense of how many additional people might want that size container. The other thing is, I think that we're going to try to get people to live with the bins for a little while, maybe upwards of 6 months, because it's amazing once you get used to it, how easily they can roll and how much it meets your needs. But we will have some available on or about July 1 for those people. The way it'll work is they'll pay their first bill, and if they get the lower rate, they'll get a credit on their second bill when they get that second bill.
And who's gonna be billing us out, the DPW?
DPW is going to be billing it out. We have looked at some other options. Those simply didn't pan out, so it'll be DPW doing the billing.
And when would they expect to get their first bill? Will it be before July 1st?
The plan of the moment is to send the bills out on or about June 1. They'll be due 30 days later.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does the board have any other questions? Tom?
So I was gonna ask about the senior rate, but you said people will apply for that with their first sign-up.
Yeah, well, there'll be a flyer inside that first bill. They can send that back in. They'll supply those 3 pieces of proof. And they can tell us if they want the smaller bin. They will have to pay the first quarter. They'll get the new rate on the second quarter, and they'll get a credit from what they would have overpaid on the first quarter.
Okay, great.
That, some folks want to get it all done ahead of time, but frankly, from a staffing standpoint, getting it all processed. This is going to be the most efficient from our side.
Okay.
Okay. So are we ready to vote on, could you tell me exactly what you want? And we'll make that a vote.
So if one looks at paragraph 3A,
Top of page 6.
which is the top of page 6, you can see if these few words that I put in parentheses there can somehow be annotated, either, as I say, with an asterisk, a footnote of some fashion, and that's placed on hold or no longer in effect, whatever wording you're comfortable with, effective July 1, 2026. That leaves in place, people have to put the trash in bags when they put it in, but it takes away that they have to be pay-as-you-throw bags.
So could I have a motion by one of our board members, please?
I'll make a motion to, if I can paraphrase it, to move forward and take a vote on the elimination of the pay-as-you-throw bags going forward,
Effective July 1.
effective July 1, and I am very much in favor of that personally.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Is there anything else I can do this evening, Mr. Chairman?
No.
With respect to this matter, I have told people I kept my 12 chickens on 20 acres, but nobody seems to think that's funny. Good night, all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Carter.
luck to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so, good evening. Our next item on the agenda is the hearing with regard to the farm regulations. Before we open the hearing, I would like to say a few things. One is, I think you all know that the goal of the proposed regulation is to provide an enforceable rules which provide a balance for the neighbors and the farm animal owners. We're not opposed to having chickens or farm animals, not at all. Our concern is that we have an enforceable regulation. We have had in the past situations where the Board of Health was not able to enforce a change in the behavior of the farm animal keeper with regard to the way he kept his animals, and provided some discomfort to the neighbors. Before I start the public hearing, I'd like to put out a few procedural rules. One, we're going to give everybody 3 minutes to speak. There's a lot of people here. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want something to say or have something to say. The other thing is, I would prefer, if you did speak on an issue, that you would annotate the part of the regulation that is giving you the angina, or what's giving you the heartburn.
Agita.
Agita. Yeah, agita. But, so if we could do that, and keep your comments constructive and instructive, that's gonna help us get through this and do the best job we can. So with that, I'd like a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
A second,
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we're gonna start the public hearing. Who would like to come up? If you would come up, speak before us here, we would like to hear your comments. Yes, state your name and address. Thank you. I knew Mark would be right up here.
So nobody else jumping at it, so Mark.
Okay.
So, I just want to say, thank you for hearing us. I went to I'm Mark Frieden, 8 Pinewood Drive.
Yeah, we just asked you to do this.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Yeah.
Signed the thing too.
Yeah.
went to a meeting of residents that are concerned about these regulations in preventing them from doing what you describe on their property. I've sort of been discussing with them other things and trying to sort of help you guys with the meeting to sort of make it maybe shorter so it doesn't get sort of noxious or something like that.
Well, I certainly hope it doesn't.
I do too. These residents,
It will be over if it does.
Yes, that's right.
so tonight's concern was to maybe, if there's too many edits to, one of the requests was to continue the hearing, just in case there needs to be more discussion, if that's needed. And in tonight's presentation, I think that there's two types of comments. One is testimonials from people that have been doing this and have no trouble, and another one is suggestions on the draft. I was gonna go with, I only have suggestions. I don't keep chickens, but I have suggestions that I was concerned about. Oops. I was gonna suggest the Rutland model is what I refer to it as, where the jurisdiction is mostly given to the animal control officer, and everybody calls them for whatever they want to talk about. And then that call goes in, gets registered and recorded, and then she gets to pick, or he, I think there's two of them, get to triage the call. I think that lightens your load. It takes the complaints off you guys. You guys would get notice of things that are for Board of Health issues, human, public safety or public health issues. But if there's something like a bear or, something going on that really isn't a Board of Health issue, she can just take care of it. And it would eliminate that from your, whatever you gotta do. So I thought that would be good for you guys and offload some of the work you gotta do. And also provides a uniform instruction to everybody in town. Whenever they have an animal problem, they call 911 and they talk about it, or they call the non-emergency number to, and they can talk about it. But it gives everybody the same direction. All the calls are counted, they're all treated the same, that sort of thing. I thought that was a benefit. And that's very similar to the existing town regulations for dogs, like nuisance dogs. Everybody calls 911. She will do what she has to do. If it's an emergency, like a dog bite, she goes. If it's not, if it's just a complaint, it's just a complaint. It gets registered. She might call the person. But she gets to do the triage to that. That was a suggestion just to lighten your load, and it would let all the regulations that exist stand. The regulations that people are living by right now, they're comfortable with, and they're doing it, and
There is no regulations now.
well, the state regulations, the other standing regulations that have to do with it. Right to farm, if they qualify, that sort of thing. The only thing I think that you have to put in some regulations is some property entry regulations, just so that you know who's gonna, the officer is gonna come on or not gonna come on, or ask for permission, or whatever you want them to do. I think that this bare bones approach is, sort of makes everybody feel a little less like the government is overreaching or overstepping. And I want you guys to be supported as the Board of Health, because when I was talking to everybody, they were in favor of helping you, doing the right thing. And I was saying to them, maybe go before you guys and offer a solution that lightens your load, like sending it to the animal control officer, so you guys don't have to deal with every complaint that's not even appropriate sometimes, And so I offered that up too. I hope that you appreciate that they understand that you're busy, understand that you're tired, understand that you're volunteers, all that kind of stuff. I was hoping that would appeal, not even to them, but to you too. Be a win-win. And then as far as permits, I was thinking that you do it like, I was suggesting, this is just me, like a dog license. Everybody has an as-of-right ability to have a dog, but you do have to register. But it wouldn't be a register all your chickens. It would be sort of register that you are the owner, you're responsible, you have chickens, and they're on your property. And the only reason that I like to do that is because then when somebody calls with a complaint, the dog officer knows who to call. Who's the responsible person around this property for the chickens or for the animals or whatever's going on. And it would be, I hope it's handled like a dog license, where it's just a processed registration more than a permit. I know a lot of people that I spoke to have testimonials about what they do on their property and the fact that they don't have butter issues. their animals don't get out, or they do get out, but they get contained. I don't know what the story is, but I was just gonna get out of the way now and let the testimonials come out.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
My pleasure.
Would someone else come up, please?
Looks like it's my turn.
You want to do the name and address? Could we have your name and address,
Yeah,
please?
Jessica Olson, 5 Bonneview Drive. So I agree with everything Mark just said, like wholly. I definitely think that it would relieve pressure on the board if the ACO had a more active role in what was happening. They already do this in Rutland. They're familiar with the animals, more familiar with the conditions on what's acceptable and what isn't. Because as far as I understand, the board doesn't have any of these animals, right? Any of you guys have anything, any of these animals
No, I don't, but I was raised
with them?
I had my own chickens when I was younger. My uncle had 20 Holstein cows, dairy farm. I worked for a veterinarian for 5 years.
Okay,
So I know animals,
okay,
okay?
thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I understand that you guys have issues and problem people or situations that you need to address. Anyways, so, one of my biggest concerns is that these, based on the October 2025 meeting minutes, Annette Garcia from the Regional Board of Health said that she would,
That's
oh,
Annette.
you're Annette, said that she would help with these regulations. And what I've noticed is they took the proposals from 2024 and added on with the extent and what exactly is getting regulated. And those new regulations are similar to like North Andover and Arlington, which are much, much bigger. Like Arlington has a population of 46,000 people. North Andover is 32,000. We have like 7,800. We have under 8,000 people in this town. So we're taking these huge towns, even Shrewsbury and Grafton. Shrewsbury has 38,000 people and Grafton has 20,000. So these areas are much bigger. So the situations are a lot different. Whereas we're a smaller town and we're more rural. Like that's what our roots have been. That's what all of our neighboring towns are: Rutland, Holden, Princeton, Sterling, etc. I think that we're in uncertain times. Food inflation itself registered 48% in February, like last month. This is before any bombs got dropped, before the gas prices started going crazy. So food security is going to become more and more important as time goes on, because if we don't have diesel for the farmers to farm and produce food, we're going to need to be more reliant on ourselves. And it's much greener for us to be able to produce our own food. Last year, Jason Kuntz goats, they kept my dog alive after surgery. She needed to eat the milk for sustenance because she couldn't consume hard food, you know? But if these regulations go into effect, that entire community resource would be eliminated. And because he wouldn't be able to have the goats, and I wouldn't be able to just call a friend and get what I need to help my dog. So I think that we need to ensure that we have the rights to control our own food supplies the best we can. And I would much rather raise my food in a good environment on my property as opposed to some factory farm where there's 3 million birds shoved in a warehouse with no fresh air, no sunlight. And these regulations would impact my ability to do that because according to E7 and E3A through E, it would be difficult for me to meet the setbacks and square footage requirements to make this possible. And if you guys are familiar with Cornish cross birds, they're a type of meat chicken. They get fat and they don't like to move. So to give each one of those 10 square feet of space when they just want to be fat gluttons and just eat and not move, like it's not workable. I'm also concerned with, oh, this pertains to E6. So garbage cannot be fed to any animal, but what is the definition of garbage? The reason why I ask is because chickens love produce scraps. So, like, would I eat that? No. Would my chicken love it? Would it be nutritious and give texture and life to their diets? Absolutely. But I don't know what your definition of garbage is. So I don't know, I don't want to get in trouble for giving my chickens lettuce. The coop, for F3, the coop and the hardware cloth requirement. For example, my coop is on legs, so it's 2.5 feet off the ground. It provides a source of shade for my birds during the summer, and it's also like a dust bathing area. If I had to put hardware cloth all around it, they couldn't go under the coop to do their dust baths anymore. So that requirement doesn't necessarily make sense for all the coops and all the situations. And lastly, it's also unclear, it says that the hardware cloth has to be on the bottom of the coop. So is that just the floor of the coop now? It's just hardware cloth? What is that gonna do in the winter to help, like, keep the birds warm? So I think that would be a little bit challenging, and needs a little bit more thought. And then lastly, E9, where we are supposed to keep the facility in a clean and wholesome condition, free from decaying filth, feces, stagnant water. I mean, I understand you want to change water, you want to have, a fresh area, but these animals, they're gonna defecate wherever. Like, and I can't necessarily fix that. Like, am I supposed to put diapers on the chickens all day to make sure that, like, you know what I mean? Where is the line in the sand? Like, I understand you don't necessarily want like a huge pile of manure somewhere, but it's, there's gonna be some, shit happens, So I think, this really summarizes most of what I said without having to go through the gory details,
Okay,
but,
so your time's expired, okay?
thank you.
Do we have somebody else that wants to testify?
I will.
Come on up.
Ashley Quist, 59 Worcester Street.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
I said Ashley Quist, 59 Worcester Street.
Okay, have a seat.
So, I understand that you guys have been fielding a whole lot of complaints about a very specific amount of properties. And I don't wanna make your job harder, but honestly, we already pay for an animal control officer. And that animal control officer already inspects the people in town that have coops every year. We pay them with our tax dollars to do so. And as such, this falls underneath their purview.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do. It was voted in. We are regionalized with Rutland
Yes, you
for
do have.
animal control.
and
And
they-
they cover
Okay, well,
all of,
Yes, but it doesn't get paid for with tax dollars.
well, it gets paid out of the town budget.
No, it gets paid for by the fees that you pay for the permits that you have.
Okay.
okay, you know what, Barbara? Well,
Yep.
let
Yep.
let us speak.
Either way, we already have a resource for this. And as such, why don't we just utilize that research, that resource to field the complaints that you guys are already taking?
We have an inspector. We have numerous inspectors on our staff that you're paying for already,
So.
that are trained in this.
And so is the animal control officer, they cover agriculture. They cover agriculture. So why not just educate the town on who to call when they have an issue of this sort? So that way it doesn't fall back on you guys.
And who's going to enforce the regulations?
The animal control officer. Because they already know, they already cover agriculture. They're already the ones that are inspecting my coop every year.
It's-
They're already the ones that are telling me that my coop is okay per whatever issues that they see. Why do we need to go ahead and reinvent the wheel?
One wasn't inspected.
just this past year, in November. It's inspected once a year. That's what their job is to do. They inspect my coop every year.
Okay.
On top of that,
They've inspected, probably 50 in town. Every year I get inspected. We go to the Scaleras, they go to the Cimarronos for like,
It's not just chickens that get inspected.
Horses.
I'm
horses,
inspected as well as-
goats, like rabbits, everything is inspected.
Barn inspections, yes. Yeah.
It's inspected at least once a year. So I don't understand why we need to even have all of these regulations. I agree with Mark. Like, okay, make it like the dog permitting process. I register, cool. The animal control officer just
Okay.
can do their thing.
It's a little more complicated than that, but
How so?
if it's a violation of public health, is the animal control officer going to cite that person for a public health regulation that's been, for example, rats?
Okay,
What's he gonna do about that?
okay, rats. Rats are a transient animal. We're gonna have an issue with them because we are so close to Worcester. Also, with all of the construction going on, they're just gonna be a problem. I never had an issue with rats until the town demolished the old Tasman Animal Hospital. And then rats came around my property. I have been very vigilant about trying to maintain them, and you can ask my fiance as well, because he's been part of this process, trying snap traps, baits, birth control, and all manner of other things to maintain the rats and get the population down, and just, we make sure that we keep all the feed closed at night, but they are always going to be a problem because we are right next to Worcester. There's never gonna be not a rat problem. You can
And
say the
the
same thing
control-
about bird feeds. Are we going to then regulate bird feeders in the town?
No, the bears will.
So why are we even talking about rats as a problem?
Oh, you don't think rats are a problem?
No, I mean, rats are a problem, but
Well,
it's
well,
just a
that's why
thing
we're
that we're
talking
going
about
to
it.
have to deal with.
Okay, all right, have you had your time? She had her time?
About 4 minutes, if you had any others.
And you've talked for a good portion of that, so I would like to continue.
So could I interject for a moment? Would you be able to, for the benefit of this full room, that there's so many people that took time to come and attend? Because it sounds like some of the comments that are coming are not inclusive of the fact that I made mention of at the last town meeting, that we have a new health alliance and agreement, intermunicipal agreement, that there are licensed inspectors. So I don't think people are really aware of that, because when you're referencing, yes, we do cost share an animal control officer, but with that said, there's just much more to the Health Alliance, and we're just trying to put some specific framework around that, which hasn't existed, which has lent itself, and I appreciate what you're saying about, there being not necessarily something specific. It's either a violation or it isn't. And, no one's looking to over-regulate anyone in town. It's just to ensure, which is what we're tasked with doing, maintaining and supporting the Massachusetts State Sanitation Code, which is why we have the inspectors, and I really don't want to misspeak. I was wondering if you could just specifically clarify that for everyone's benefit, your role and who is a part of this alliance and how that differs from prior to this agreement being signed last summer.
Yes, certainly. So a little context of the regional collaborative. So as many, I think a lot of folks know, and we've talked about before, the city of Worcester used to host the public health department that served West Boylston, Shrewsbury, Grafton, and Worcester. In July of last year, that relationship ended, and the towns of Shrewsbury, Grafton, and West Boylston opted to form their own public health collaborative. And so, we're a fully staffed team of 2 health inspectors, a director, a public health nurse, and our goal is really to address public health conditions and concerns and make sure that they're healthy communities. So when we're looking at any sort of regulation or we're receiving complaints from folks, we're really looking at what's the human health impact of some of those concerns. And so I know, our inspectors go out and, we get called out on all sorts of nuisance complaints. So it could be rodent infestations. So we're not just looking at rodent activity, we're looking at big colonies of rodents living on a poorly maintained property. We're looking at nuisance odors, and again, that's not your normal, everything has an odor to it, right? You're looking at waste disposal, you're looking at manure from farm animals, there's always gonna be an odor. So we're looking at what becomes nuisance-some, what is abnormal, what is not being maintained properly that could cause the spread of diseases or illness. It could be noise. We know that noise, especially, in the nighttime hours, and consistent noise can have really large impacts on mental health and well-being. Again, we're looking at nuisance-some noise, so we're thinking about out of the ordinary, regular, responsible practices, are there noise that are contributing to poor public health? And so, as we're looking at a regulation like this, we're really weighing that. How do we make sure that we're retaining the ability for folks to continue to have animals, continue their practices? We know that 99% of people are responsible, good animal owners, and they're doing the right thing already. We're looking at how can we make sure that 1% that is not a responsible animal owner, that is causing harm or conditions that may cause harm to their neighbors and their community, how can we provide them with specific guidance that's based on good farming practices that 99% of folks are already maintaining, and protecting those public health resources. So, as we're looking at a regulation like this, we looked at other communities in the surrounding area. So we looked at Clinton and Holden to see what they were doing. We looked at generally accepted farming practices. So we're looking at veterinary schools, we're looking at farming schools to see what kind of guidance that they put out. And if there's any other state, state guidance from folks who are in this world. We're not making up regulations. And so that's what the intent behind this is. And, I know we met with Agricultural Commission. We included a grandfather clause so that folks who already have animals, we're asking, I think what I'm hearing a lot of folks saying, that you're essentially just doing your $10, we call it a permit, but it's your $10 registration to say, hey, I have animals predating this regulation. And we say, great, that's all we need to know. And as long as we don't get called out for a nuisance condition, that's all that we're asking from folks in town who already have those animals present. There's.
Where is that in that's not in the.
Yeah, I didn't see that in there.
Yep, I can pull it up. So
I know that we had had
that
that
falls under
conversation.
section G1, where it says individuals who are keeping animals prior to the effective date are considering existing owners shall register and pay the annual permit fee. However, they are exempt from other documentation requirements. And then goes on to say, if we do have a nuisance condition, we may ask to just work with, I think it was said earlier in the trash, like, we're all about education and working to make sure we're protecting public health. So how can we work with the animal owners to put some mitigation, efforts, whether it's maybe coming up with a better feed plan. So if we need to make sure rodents aren't getting into the feed, or, hey, let's work and talk about, a manure plan that can help reduce any odors that may have become, too severe. So, I think that's just a little context of like where the health department is, what our priority is, and really making sure that folks in town can continue to keep animals in the good practices that they're already doing. Additionally, we always have a variance process. We're well aware that these parameters might not fit on somebody's property, whether, you can't be that far set back from your neighbors, or you can't be that far set back from a wetland area that we're making sure there's no manure runoff. Anybody who's applying as a new animal holder, and so that would be anybody that is getting animals after this regulation, could come in and say, hey, I need a variance, and here's why. I believe it's not a detriment to public health. And the Board of Health can hear that, will work with the person to come up with different strategies to make sure that we're still protecting the public health and those public resources, you know, and work through what works for their property and their practices and what they're planning to do. But I know we took up your time, so I do want to give you a couple minutes for your other points.
Okay, so if we want to get back to the specific regulations, because that sounds like what you guys want to do. When you talk about poultry, you do say that geese and ducks are covered under this, yet you have no regulations for, because geese and ducks need water, like a body of water. Ducks can't eat without a body of water. Where is it in your regulations?
That's up to the owner of the,
But you can't put things up to the owner if part of this is also for animal health and part of this is also for human health.
we're
This is
focused,
what you seem to be going into here,
we're focused on human health.
which none of these regulations really help.
Oh,
This is more towards animal health. This is not something that the Board of Health really needs to regulate this far.
So would you
I'm
like me to
saying-
put in something about a pool for the ducks and the geese?
What I would like you to do is just say, hey, all complaints go to the animal control officer, and they will be dealt with the animal control officer and the agricultural commission, because that's where it really belongs. But there's other things in here, like for instance, you need to put hardware cloth 24 inches vertically down. When was the last time you dug 24 inches in New England soil without machinery? It's almost impossible.
We can work on,
That's not,
we can work on that. I mean, that
Like,
can be- we can
what
work
I'm
on
saying
that.
basically is please table this discussion for another time. Let's work with the agricultural commission, let's work with the animal control
I've been
officer.
with the, I've been there with those folks. I've worked with them. I've probably been to 7 or 8. How many meetings?
No, at least half a dozen, since,
And
Since
that has also been with me, and every time they came up with a suggestion, we acceded to that suggestion. Absolutely, because we put in that whole clause on there that effectively grants anybody that already has their animals not to be required to use the new permit regulations. We've done that. That's what they asked, and we acceded to that.
I don't think that's enough of an ascension.
No, okay. How are we for time?
If you want to move to the next.
Finished, okay.
Okay, Amy Merrill's, Hosmer Street. So a couple things. First of all, I would like to respectfully say that that is completely untrue. The Agricultural Commission was vehemently against permits, fees. We were not that we expected to be, but it is not the truth of the fact that everything we said was, if everything that we said was listened to, we wouldn't have this 10-page monstrosity. And that's a fact. It bothers me. I want to ask you a question, if I may. Are you trying to say that for towns that don't have regulations like this, there's nothing the health department can do?
I think that, and I know when we were at the Agricultural Commission presenting these regulations, we did very clearly outline the limitations that the health department has when it comes to unpermitted activities on private property. While
Okay.
certainly there's some things that we can do if we're not able to, let's say somebody's complaining about, you know, an infestation on a property that's fenced or it's far back that we can't see an infestation of rats, for example. You know, the property owner doesn't have to allow the health department onto a property. But if we have a permit process, it allows us that judicial process to be fair and consistent when we're addressing public health concerns related to animal keeping.
One other thing that bothered me, I mean, I am just not gonna sit here and take up all kinds of time, it's just, we've been there, done that, and never got us anywhere, and hence why we're here again. But it bothers me a great deal that we were talking about the rats when Ashley was sitting up here. And the comment was made about the ACO, you know, so we have a rat problem, what is she gonna do about it? I'm appalled that this board doesn't already have the answer to that. That you don't know what she could and would do about it. And before you try to institute this, don't you think you should know?
I think we do know.
Well, you just said at this meeting, what is she gonna do about it if there's a rat infestations? If you knew the answer to the question, why did you say that? That's what you just said to Ashley. You said, what is she gonna do about it? We should be asking her what she can do about it, because clearly, perhaps nobody in this room knows what she could do about it. So again, before we do this, shouldn't you all be able to answer that question? Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Annie.
How are you? Good to see you. Dan Mercurio, 204 Lancaster Street. I have a couple of questions before I want to get to this. How many non-chicken complaints has the board have?
Non-chicken.
Non-chicken animal complaints?
None, probably none.
Okay,
Non-chicken,
non-chicken.
none.
So going back to your point, every complaint that comes in, you want to protect the health. If that's the case, this would be chicken only. How many complaints, have you dealt with any complaints where the Agricultural Commission has not been involved in?
I've asked them to be involved, and they did not respond.
Okay, so it's my understanding that, for anybody that doesn't know, the Board of Health gets their regulation, Mass General Law, Chapter 111. That gives you the nuisance. Under that, that's where you get your regulatory authority. So technically, you don't need any of these because you regulate nuisances. So if somebody's got, whether it's a rooster or rats or manure or anything, you don't need this, because if that's a nuisance, if that's a public health or environmental risk, then you can handle that. You have got the power to handle that. So I know, you've mentioned in the past, you've used the term that you need something to sink your teeth in. You have it. You have it under Mass General Law. You do not need these. So I think a big concern for the community is that you're finding solutions for problems that don't exist. So if you say there's chicken rooster problems, why would that be expanded to non-chicken, if you're saying you don't have any of those? So,
Dan, if I could.
sure,
I've had problems with, in the past. You asked me the last year,
sure.
just chickens. But in the past, I've had problems with horses and a hog
Right.
and
So when I was on the Agricultural Commission, there were two non-chicken complaints. One was a goat and one was a horse. The horse, the complaint was, a woman was concerned that the horse owner may be mistreating it. We had an equine expert on the Agricultural Commission go meet with that homeowner, edified them, told them, no, this is a training technique, this is that. And the woman was tickled pink. She was happy, she was pacified, she was very happy that she was explained how things go. So that wouldn't have been covered in this anyway. The other one was a goat issue, and there was some
I recall that.
some religious practices going on. And nobody wants to open up a civil liberties lawsuit against somebody with a religious activity going on. Again, that wouldn't be covered under this. So a big concern is that we're addressing, coming up with solutions for problems that don't exist. And that's what upsets the people. You talk about, the government overreach, that's what upsets the people. Those are the questions that I had. So you talk about, under D2, it says a permit shall not be required for keeping fewer than 6 chickens. Is the board aware that you don't buy chickens in less than 6? Okay.
Tractor Supply sells them 6 at a time.
Yeah, I don't think most can. You talked about a facility shall not be located, a farming facility shall not be located in the front or side yard bordering a public way. What if you have, say, a cow grazing on a piece of vacant land with no structure? How do you ascertain what's the front,
Well,
what's the side?
that would probably come under the act,
The what?
the
Right to, right to
under
farm.
Right to Farm Act.
All right, speaking
So
of the,
that's not even an issue here, Dan.
all right, speaking of the right to farm, but what if it's not? What if it's, say, an acre? You've got an acre of raw land that's not built on. How do you ascertain what's the front yard, what's the side yard?
So this, part of the thing, or even since I was invited to be on the board, is that there was a complete distinct lack of parameters. And this is what lends itself to there being so much conflict and, just everyone being disgruntled and absolutely no way to enforce anything.
But you do.
Whether it's your property, no, there is no enforcement at this particular
The Board of
time.
Health, Mass General Law, Chapter 111, has regulatory authority on nuisances. Now, I realize nuisance is a subjective term, but you have that. So if there are chickens going onto your property and using the bathroom and ripping up your flowers and everything, that would be considered a nuisance. You'd be hard-pressed to find somebody sitting here that wouldn't call that a nuisance. You don't need to draft up farm regulations for that. I know my time's limited, so there's a couple other things I want to talk about. You say you can't feed out garbage. Unfortunately, you did not define garbage in here. But just so you know, Mass law allows garbage to be fed, pigs, anything else. Yes, it's got to be 212 degrees, 30 minutes while being agitated. A permit is required to feed garbage only if it's for public consumption. But you say no garbage in here. So that means that a family can't scrape their plates after dinner and go out and feed their chickens? That's a little silly. The other one was the first page, B, number 2. It says, commercial agriculture may be limited to West Boylston zoning to activities of 5 acres or less. It says limited to West Boylston zoning. So commercial agriculture falls under right to farm.
Right.
Right to farm is only that. But you specify limited by West Boylston zoning. Right to farm says that you can have commercial farming in any zone, is permissible in any zone. But you talk about limit to West Boylston zoning. So are you saying that you're going to supersede the Mass definition of right to farm?
No.
Do you see where that wording is a
Yeah,
conflict?
we can change that, Dan.
And the other thing I want to talk about is the minimum square footage. Where did you guys come up with the minimum square footage to house these?
University of New Hampshire, best farming practices guideline, and we use the less restrictive end of their range.
Okay, I would discount that respectfully. So for example, pig, you have it's 50 square feet for an enclosed area. I've got less than that from Penn State, Purina Feeds, Tractor Supply. For sheep, you've got 20 square feet. Penn State, OSU, UMass coming up with 12 to 16 square feet. And then the pasture area, it says pasture area per animal. Is that exclusively pasture with no supplemental feeding?
Correct. I will double check, I believe, because this came up, so I thought that we did, but I will make sure that that is defined. It is defined. Pasture area.
Pasture area is defined, but not supplemental feeding.
Okay, yep, thank you.
And then, is the fee, the $10 fee, is that per species or that total?
Total.
All right, and then how long does the board have to issue a permit to a new applicant? Like is it 30 days or?
Oh, I don't know, we haven't, we probably could do it if there's somebody in the office, you know?
If, can you put a maximum on how long it would take before you raise the fee?
Yeah, sure. What would you like, it 10 years from now?
How about indefinite? You talk about some neighboring communities, or somebody brought up neighboring communities. I know Sterling, this is all in terms of farm regulations. Sterling, they only require fees for pasteurization and stables. Holden's got nothing. Boylston's for $25 for pigs only. Clinton is chickens only. Lancaster, Berlin, Bolton, Shrewsbury, nothing. Upton's got large animals and poultry. Grafton, Millbury, nothing. Auburn does have a permit for everything. Sutton has nothing. Northbridge is stable only. Northborough is stable and piggery only. Oxford's got nothing. Leicester's commercial stable only. Charlton's a piggery only. Paxton, Rutland, Westminster, nothing. Princeton has a tiered system, and it begins only at 3/4 acres. Spencer's got a full animal permit, $25. Oakham, Hubbardston, Barry, nothing, and Westboro is stables only. So
And I could tell you that Northborough right now is working on regulations.
Northborough and West Boylston are different communities. And that's a big concern too.
Can I make a point that needs to be addressed? Yes, they are different, but in many cases, they are much the same, because if you go up to Shrine Ave or Western Ave, and you're on quarter acres, there's a density there, and that's the problem areas with regard to, the chickens. It's because when you're on a quarter acre, and it's just really, we had in one case, a select person, I went to the place numerous times, because we didn't have any real authority to go on the property. We could see from the select person's property that there was probably no less than 30 or 40 birds. There were geese, and there were ducks, and there was chickens of all types. And the whole backyard was just one chicken run, I guess. It was a total mess, and it wasn't being maintained. We actually sent the animal control officer out there. She went. She came back with no finding.
I do remember that property, that was when I was on the Agricultural Commission. That was more than a farm issue, because they had, there were broken water heaters, toilets in the front yard, there was unregistered,
Well,
it was more than just a farm animal
Well,
issue.
the issue that the person that lived next to him, what the issue for him was the animals, was the birds.
I think most of us just want to appeal to this board to say, there's so much stuff going on right now, just locally, internationally. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Let's not look for
Well,
solutions for
if-
problems that don't exist.
That does exist. In the dense neighborhoods, Western Ave, Shrine Ave, that's a problem. I've been out to those locations numerous times because of roosters, because the animals, they're inexperienced people that have animals, they're not taken care of properly.
Well, so,
That's what the AdCom's for.
so,
I had
again,
asked one of your members, when I had a rooster problem, to go out. I called him numerous times, and he did not go out there. I asked him to go to another location, and he did not go.
Did you talk to the chair?
No, I called that person directly.
Well, the chair is not really appropriate, notified. The whole commission should be notified.
I think just like education is important for new chicken chicken owners.
Well, part of the regulation and part of the permit process, Danny, is to educate the people on what their responsibilities are when they have animals.
The Agriculture Commission and Right to Farm came into West Boylston in 2008. It was great. We had Agriculture Commission got started. It did fizzle out. 2019, the board got a big resurgence, and when I tell you they've got their sleeves rolled up. They're ready. It's put me in, coach. So for you to be going to these calls, you don't need to do it.
I told you, I asked
But I've
one of
there's
their
members here,
members to
there's
go.
members here that are discounting that.
There's one, if you only spoke to one member,
Well,
there's
how
a
many
whole
people,
world
how many people do I have to call?
you should talk to the chair.
Or it could
You
be,
notify the chair, and the chair delegates the appropriate person who is a regular.
or it could be an email that
You
gets
go
blasted
there,
out to
it's
all,
one
so,
person.
so there's no,
Person you called should have told the chair.
so the,
I mean, I don't know.
or it could just be an email that gets blasted out to all 7 of them. So Massachusetts law does not, the Agriculture Commission has got no regulatory authority. They're an advisory board only.
That's exactly right.
They're an advisory board only.
Exactly.
But it specifically states, if a community has an agriculture commission, the Board of Health shall work with them. So I'm not
Danny,
assuming,
I've been at their meetings.
I'm not assuming negative intentions and suggesting that you're just going to the meetings to check boxes to say, yeah, we did it. But from what I'm hearing, these regulations don't even come close to reflecting what the wishes of the AgCom.
Well, they're not the only ones that make the decisions
No,
here,
they're not a regulatory, we understand that.
you know?
So, if I may, you know, I have lived in town for close to 30 years, and it wasn't until that town meeting that I have never missed a town meeting since I lived here. I had never heard of the Agricultural Commission. Clearly, everybody that's in this room has a vested interest, but you're a small segment of the population. It needs to be respected, it needs to be acknowledged, and I think there's expertise there that I certainly wouldn't have a lot of language with. But with that said, you know, I think, I just feel it incumbent to say, when you mention 2019, and it serves a useful purpose and supports everyone here that has a significant commitment to it, but that was COVID, and then, you know, changes in administration here have not lent itself to that being perhaps as copacetic as a relationship as it perhaps could be.
Actually, speaking of COVID, you and I spoke right at the onset of COVID that we were assuming that there was gonna be a lot of problems coming up because people would be home, more people would be getting, that really never happened.
More people got chickens out there.
But the nuisances didn't increase.
Right, and thankfully, the problem with, you know, with regulation isn't that we're trying to, the people that maintain their coops and to take care of that, that's not what the regulation's for. The regulation is to give the authority and the enforcement ability of the Board of Health to act when it's necessary to act.
And I just maintain that you have that authority already through Mass General Law, Chapter
Well,
101.
they're very weak, and if you've ever tried to take a nuisance to court, that's where it ends up. You end up going to court, and it's costly for the town, and it's costly for.
I'd be curious to know a poll if the people would rather spend their tax dollars on town council to take a legitimate nuisance to court, or just to have the few bad apples, and that just seems like the world is, right? The few bad apples spoil it for the whole bunch.
Well, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Dan.
I appreciated all your comments and information.
Your name and the address, please.
My name is Michael Jameson. I live at 91 Sterling Street. To go off of your point about, legal fees, I think these regulations are very broad and open to interpretation that I don't necessarily know, and I am trying to be constructive when I say this, that I don't necessarily know the board has the authority to do, and I would be concerned that these regulations would bring lawsuits that the town would have to pay for. To go off of the point about the dense neighborhoods, I believe that the setbacks are very restrictive, and to the point of dense neighborhoods, I think they are too restrictive for even the least dense neighborhoods. You're going to unfortunately push people out that have larger properties that just can't maintain these setbacks because they're too large.
I don't understand. If they've got a large property, how would the setbacks affect them?
Parameters into.
The parameters required for keeping of large animals are the areas are very large from.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes, I hear that.
But to that point.
Dan made that point, I understand.
I think including something about the added feeding, like supplemental feeding, would make many people happy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I heard that point of defining more clearly what that pasture area requirement
Yes,
is and
yes.
how it relates to supplemental feeding. Absolutely.
Yes.
I made a note of that.
Thank you. In application requirements, number 5, going off of that legal kind of broadness, I think, I quote, a permit will not be denied without cause in the form of valid complaints or violations of this regulation or other laws. That if the purpose of this regulation is to give the board authority to act on valid complaints, I think valid complaints should be defined. And a sort of due process as to how the complaint would be verified
How would you verify a valid complaint if a rooster's crowing at 4 o'clock in the morning and,
Send someone out there to go listen to
Handle a
the.
dog barking at 4 in the morning, by the way.
yeah, and we have a dog officer that takes care of that.
Yeah, 'cause I had my neighbor saying my rooster, and I said, well, your dog was barking 11 o'clock outside, and my son, he couldn't sleep at night. So what's the difference?
Well, you know what, you need to come up, we can talk at the
Not
table,
saying.
okay?
That's up for the board to put into regulations. I think it just needs to be more
Thank
spelled
you.
out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I clear one of the points I made, can I just talk again?
Yeah.
One of the points about the similarity, or that I was wanting, was a similarity to the dog complaint, where that is actually I have the minutes from the meeting where they created the hearing process, and it's a two-stage process where danger or nuisance, and one is heard in front of the select board, one is heard in front of the town administrator, but they make that call, but you could do the exact same thing to give the animal control officer a triage method, where these kind of things, the Board of Health jurisdiction is absolutely in place. These kind of things are Board of Health, you call them. These kind of things are whatever, her only. These kind of things are sort of a combination with the AgCom involved, or maybe just the AgCom at some point. I mean, you could certainly do that in that way. The thing that I would appeal to is the uniform direction to everybody in town to call 911 for all the calls. I mean, I don't want them to not call you, but I think you don't want them to call you. I mean.
911, I don't think we should call 911 for an animal issue.
But the dog, or the non-emergency number, but go to dispatch so it's recorded and then triaged. Like, she doesn't have to respond to it right away if she thinks it's just a complaint of something happening that's not urgent. But if it is, she can respond. I mean, have somebody else respond. That's why I was sort of matching the dog
Look at that.
call. Do you want I couldn't actually find it was sort of, this is another one where the state law gives a lot of rules about dog enforcement.
Right.
And this is, the only thing that they send down local is the hearing designation or something like that. And so that's all that they did. So it didn't even become like a policy or a regulation. It relies on the state law, but comes down only for what the state was allowing the Board of Selectmen to do, or the animal control officer to do, and they've fleshed it all out with this sort of two-tiered hearing system and, calling 911. I mean, I can give you the minutes, but that's all I got. I don't have the.
That's okay, Mark, thank you. Anybody else that hasn't spoken want to come up?
Kate Cimarrano, 98 Shrewsbury Street. And I just want to back up with what he was talking about. If you needed something to sink your teeth into, what he was discussing, I think, would be more than cover anything that you're trying to do here. Because any kind of nuisance or health violation or whatever, somebody could make the complaint, they would be required to come in before the board or however you want, and it could be discussed. Maybe part of that process could be, we want you to get together with the Agricultural Commission and they can train you or teach you in how to better handle this situation. And then if there's a second issue, then it escalates to something else or whatever. But that would give you the teeth that you are looking for to be able to handle these certain situations. As far as this goes, there's a lot in there that just does not keep in mind that people handle things differently. I, for instance, do a deep litter method in my coop, and it only gets changed out once or twice a year. And that is a natural process that a lot of other chicken keepers do. And it helps with the chickens in a lot of ways. But according to this, I was supposed to clean it out every week.
Yeah,
Now, even if, I know it
understand
doesn't
that.
affect me because I've already had my chickens, but you're telling people who are getting chickens that they can't do that. So there's a lot of things in these regulations that are just, some things are too broad and some things are just way too specific. And there needs to be some play in here.
And that's why we're here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else?
Molly MacArthur, 9 Maplewood Avenue. So I'm gonna make an observation and then ask a question. So what I've been hearing during this meeting is that the Board of Health needs to have regulations of some kind in order to enforce anything, any issue that pops up. And I will just take your word for that because I know nothing about legal stuff. What I am hearing from my neighbors is that there's a great dislike for having regulations that are not specifically going to be enforced. No one is going to be walking around my chicken coop making sure that my hardware cloth goes 24 inches down. Nobody is going to be walking up onto my property and measuring and making sure that my run is 25 feet from my neighbor's fence. It's only if there's a problem. So this is my question, and it is an honest question, please take it that way. What is the absolute minimum social contract we need to have in order to make problematic properties enforceable? So, like, would it be enough to say, if you want farm animals, you give us $10 a year, $100 one-time fee, I make you a friendship bracelet, whatever it is, and that is a binding contract, I check a box and say, I've read the terms and conditions, I will keep my animals in a safe and wholesome condition, I will not put manure on fence lines, I will not let my sheep wander around the neighborhood. I am acknowledging that I will do those things. And then if I don't, does that give the animal officer, the Board of Health, the inspectors that come in, does that give them enough power to enforce animals that are being kept in an inappropriate way?
So, I mean, it depends how it's written, and there has to be an explicit clause that says, you know, an agent of the Board of Health or whoever else we authorize, you have to allow them access to investigate complaints. The one challenge with something that, you know, you're outlining this is we identify a problem, right? And we go on and do an inspection based on a complaint, and then, you know, the structure is already in place. They are not gonna move the structure to meet setback requirements. You know, there's no next steps outlined for enforcement. So where our regulation had those setback requirements, and we would be, for new animal owners, be requiring plot plans that says, this is what we're doing, these are the setback requirements, this is where we're putting it. So, you know, we are checking that to make sure that they're not building right on their neighbor's fence. And
Okay,
then,
but is there a plan in place for, I say, I'm gonna put in a chicken run, I've got a way to put it, it's 10 feet away from my house, 25 feet away from the property line in all directions. Is someone going to come to my property and measure it with a tape measure?
Probably not.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, I
But
think,
however, if there's a problem there,
Yeah.
and you haven't complied to the regulation,
Yeah.
then we have the authority to make you comply.
right, but if I sign something saying, I understand that there are I will look for the setbacks. If I make it incumbent on the individual instead of having regulations that, again, no one's coming by and checking until someone complains. Is it not enough for me to say, I understand, I can't build right on a property line, I understand, I have a quarter of an acre, I can't have a flock of ostrich. Like, is that, it's okay if it's not, I'm just trying to understand, like, why we are regulating for the bad apples and not keeping it easy for the people who just want a few chickens or just want a couple of goats.
so I think, I guess I'm hearing you say the same thing that you know, a permit application is. So, you know, we have this regulation, cause you reference, like, they're saying, I understand the setbacks, I understand that I have to keep the property on, or keep my animals on my property. That's what the application, that's what a permit is, an application for a permit is. So, yes, they would be saying, you know, here's the animals that I have. They're attesting that they understood the regulations and the setback requirements and their responsibility as a responsible animal owner. So, you know, our application based on these regulations is basically what you're saying, of saying they're attesting to say, yes, I understand this. And then providing us with a plan that says, here's a hand sketch drawing of where I'm gonna put things, and it shows how far away I am. I'm gonna tell you in 2 sentences, this is how I'm keeping my food, this is how I'm disposing of my manure. So I don't know if that's like kind of what it sounds
Yes.
like that's kind of
Yeah,
what you're
so why,
talking
and
about.
why is that not sufficient? Because that's me saying I'm taking personal responsibility for what I'm doing on my property and for not being a bad neighbor. I guess I don't understand, like, why do you need all the other stuff then? If I have to tell you exactly how I'm going to keep the animals,
What other stuff?
The regulations.
the regulations, so.
It sounds
We-
like the permit requirements and then general requirements.
So-
Like the permit requirements are what you're talking about, you need to fill out and tell them where the edges are.
Yeah, and they're attesting. We can't require a permit if we don't have a regulation state. We can't require that somebody completes this and tells it to us, and we have it on file that they're attesting they're gonna be responsible animal holders if we don't have a regulation.
We have that with, we have that with a lot of Board of Health, like, so a septic license, I'm applying for a license, and that license is under the condition that I'm going to adhere to Title V code.
And but then we,
There's a state law that requires that boards of health license septic haulers.
We could apply to the general guidelines in Massachusetts for animal husbandry then, right?
That falls outside of the context of this, this regulation is not speaking about anything that's already governed by another law.
But
With the garbage specifically.
that instance is, right, the sewer is.
This regulation is not about septic haulers.
Yeah, I understand, but we're comparing,
It's the same Board of Health is regulating septic the same way it's regulating what you guys are trying to regulate with this. It's the same.
So I think what Molly's point was, every year I fill out the septic installer renewal application, and on it, it says, you know, basically I'm going to adhere to Title V. So what Molly's point is, if there's a permit for this, I'm going to adhere to good practices.
but we
Yeah.
do, we follow up, Danny, you know, with all of those septic issues, you know, right?
And
We have, and there's a penalty if you don't, right?
so Title V is a state law. Best practices are not state laws. So I think that's where the difference is,
Yeah, but when you
you know, when we license a septic hauler, they're adhering to an existing sanitary code that has been adopted by the state and charged to the local Board of Health. You know, when we're talking about backyard animal keeping, not commercial, not stables licensed by the state, there's best practices, which, you know, encourage everybody, but there's not a legal backing for a health department to say, you're not following best practices, we're gonna take this enforcement action to correct any public health nuisances. So a regulation is required in order for there to be that legal enforcement capability when we do have causes that could impact human health and well-being.
well, could the regulation just apply to the guidelines then you're tying it?
We do reference, best practices in this.
No, I understand, but
But
just
your
say,
regulations go farther than best practices.
just say you are attesting that you're gonna follow the regulation, which ties into the best practices. And then you have some sort of guidelines, but you don't have to rewrite the guidelines.
We'll make a note of that.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, we should go up here.
Because it is televised, so we want to make sure.
So, again, Kate Samorano, 98 Shrewsbury Street. So, a lot of this seems like there's in particular, one property that is a very big issue that hasn't been able to be resolved. And you were saying that there's the clause in here that people who already have animals are exempt. So even with this in place, you still wouldn't be able to have any teeth for that then, would you?
That property has been, that has changed, that particular property you're talking about, that's almost resolved.
Oh, good. So why do we need this anyway?
Yeah.
But because I've had other issues with other animals in town that thanks to Mr. Minnick, he's in the back of the room there, he was able to take a rooster off my hands.
Yes, I remember that, yes.
Do you remember that,
I do remember that.
Dennis? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and his dad came down, at that particular point, the reason I was involved was because we did not have a Board of Health, because we were between the Worcester Alliance and the New Alliance, and at that point, I don't even think I had a board. There was only Tom and I still on the board, the other people resigned. So I stepped up to try to resolve that. I had probably last summer, two other rooster issues, where the rooster was barking, and people called the Board of Health, and I went down and I was successful, and one fellow was able to there's a
Rehome.
rooster rescue group. They came and they took the rooster. But the problem is that, you know, there again, the Board of Health had to step up to resolve the problem. We had to make the people understand, despite the neighborhood asking the people to take care of their animal, they would not. And so I had to plead, I didn't have any regulation, I had to plead with the people to take care of their animal so that the rest of the neighborhood could sleep. The rooster was barking at 5 o'clock in the morning and barked continuously all day long. It was driving the poor neighborhood crazy. So,
I think I think a lot of us can understand if there were general regulations like, you know, so many chickens on smaller properties, or no roosters on smaller properties.
well, we actually have that here.
Right, I'm saying, I think a lot of us can understand that and not have an issue with that kind of stuff. But there's, like I had said before, there's a lot of things that are just a little too specific in here and things that are just too broad as well.
We can work on that.
And maybe, I'm suggesting that maybe something that was much more simplified and looked something much more like what the application addresses, rather than all these hyper-specifics and things that are in this regulation.
Okay, thank you.
I have one quick, just
What?
brief
No,
comment.
if you would come up to the microphone, I have another gentleman coming up.
Let me see if I
Okay.
can do it.
That chair is way more comfortable.
Easier to get out of.
Those are awful chairs.
We gave you chairs that weren't comfortable. We got the comfortable ones.
gonna take that one back.
Kathy Sawyer, 98 Shrewsbury Street. What I don't understand is, I've lived in 3 different states. Anything to do with animals was animal control. It was never Board of Health. I don't understand why Board of Health is controlling the animals when you have animal control. It makes no sense.
You know what I'd like to do? I would like to get the animal control officer here.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we need.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do, okay? maybe at our next meeting, we could have the animal control officer come, and we can have that discussion if she would come, okay? I know she's busy, she handles like 5 different communities, but, yeah.
Hi, my name's James, 64 North Main Street.
Hi.
So, everybody that lives in this community knew it was right to farm when they bought their house. With that being said, roosters are farm animals, and they're bound to hear a rooster crow at some point. Why are we trying to regulate something that's natural?
Okay. I will tell you that right to farm is very specific about what right to farm is. If you would,
Yeah, so right to farm is specific to their acre size requirements, there are income size requirements. It has to be a working, operation, a for-profit operation, and that right to farm law has specific requirements around it. This regulation does not apply to those operations that fall under right to farm. So these are for folks that are not meeting those that do not meet the acreage requirements, that are protected under right to farm. So I think that's an important clarification.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a distinction, yeah.
so now, as a hobby farmer, if I were to incubate eggs and get a rooster, because it's a 50-50 shot,
Yeah. You're gonna get more roosters than
am I
chickens.
supposed to just throw it in the trash? Or
Throw what,
what,
the
the rooster?
Well, the problem is, if you can control the rooster,
Don't crow.
there are things,
There are methods.
there are methods to prevent a rooster from crowing.
Yeah.
Do you have neighbors?
What's that?
Do you have neighbors?
They're pretty set back, but I'm on 140, so
Okay.
they're across the street and they're on Reed Street there, but none of them complain, at
Yeah,
least to me.
Exactly, and so I don't think that, again, the parameters that we've gotten assistance with since, trying to put, as I said earlier, some framework around it, is not to disrupt anyone's quality of life. It's just to also be mindful, which this board is challenged with, about folks that do have animals and neighbors that don't. And, is everything amenable? And to be able to have an ordinance to say this meets that requirement or it doesn't. So it is not to disrupt what you're
So-
saying you're doing, absolutely not. It doesn't sound that way at all.
My chickens, I let them out of their run. They roam around the yard, they eat the grass, because there's not normally grass in a chicken run. They eat it up.
Yeah.
So they're somewhat free-range chickens. These setbacks don't matter because they're free-range chickens. They're gonna crow over here, they're gonna crow over there. Why are we, so bothered about the crow?
You can put your chickens into a container that has wheels, and you can pull your chickens along in a tractor, exactly.
I could, but that's only gonna get a 20 by whatever, however
Well,
you
it
build
depends
it.
how big you have it. And incidentally, one of the roosters I had to have removed was on 140, not probably far from your house,
Okay,
okay? Because the people living behind called me about the rooster.
the same people that called about their dogs,
I don't know about the dogs. I know nothing about dogs.
we got letters about someone's dog barking a lot and trying to get all the neighbors
I'm not
gang
a
up on them.
dog guy, yeah.
All right.
Okay. I own a dog.
I'm done here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Caitlin Little, Valley Forge Circle. I own Valley Forge Farm, which is a 15-stall equestrian facility. It's on just over 5.5 acres. I realize that these regulations I would be grandfathered in. I have a couple questions. Number one, these equine regulations are absolutely insane, with all due respect. They have no discretion of what a horse is. So my mini horses do not need a 12 by 12 stall. My quarter horses don't need a 12 by 12 stall. Maybe a draft horse might need a 12 by 12 stall. These regulations, I did look up the regulations on the UMass website, and these were actually the higher end of the best practices. So another question that I have is if I were to sell my property and then the new owners, so not all my stalls are 12 by 12, some are 10 by 10, which is the actual standard stall size for equestrian facilities. What would happen to the new owners? Would they now not be in regulation because they don't have?
That's a good question. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so that needs to be addressed because, I mean,
But, you know,
it's been run as I'm the second owner of the facility and it's been run as a farm since 1978,
but
9.
that's why we're having the hearing, right?
Is your horse stable licensed by the state?
I'm not licensed by the state right now because I am a private
You don't do
facility. I
like-
just have my own horses, so
Okay.
I am not currently. But and it is also it should be noted that the stable guidelines for the state of Massachusetts, this is much stricter than what the state of Massachusetts requires for stable licensing.
Thank you.
So
That's
I
helpful.
would reference that specifically for equines.
Thank you, yep. Yep. Anybody else?
Raphael Malaret, 59 Worcester Street. So I have some questions, and pardon me if I've missed some things here. One thing that I'm wondering is there an actual noise ordinance here in West Boylston as far as this goes?
No.
So basically, it seems like then anyone can complain about anything from working on your car, making too much noise, to your cat that's in heat that's sitting there screaming out the window. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's something that should be important, especially when it comes to addressing, let's say, roosters, sheep, goat, pigs, anything that makes that kind of noise. Where's the ordinance for that? Where does that follow? You know, I feel that's something that
Would you want a noise ordinance?
I'm not asking for one. I'm asking if there is one. Because okay, that's that. And then
I support that idea.
I mean, maybe that's something that should be done, but
Well, that's
the next-
another one we gotta do.
the next step is, I mean, no disrespect here, but the next thing is, I'm trying to understand something here is, what exactly is this, are these regulations trying to achieve by the board? Like, what is the board trying to achieve by these regulations exactly?
Well, we're trying to have a situation where if there is a problem with a farm animal, then everybody knows what the rules are.
That's right.
So we can enforce the rule, or if there's no rule, then we probably don't have any responsibility to enforce that rule. But we're trying to set some guidelines to make it so that everybody knows the game, everybody's playing by the same rules,
Okay.
you know?
But to a degree, it doesn't sound like that's the case, because you're saying that everyone that already has their animals is grandfathered in. So what happens now with the people, let's say we decide we're already grandfathered in, we have the animals on our farm, so all these regulations aren't going to really apply to us. So what if we decide now, I feel like getting a sheep or something that makes a lot of noise? Are these regulations, because we're getting a new animal, going to affect that, or are they going to?
But you're gonna have to file a permit anyway.
Right.
And in that permit, it would outline what animals you presently have. So then you'd have to amend the permit, which would probably then give us the opportunity to take a look at the particular animals that you're adding on or whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
And then as far as, some enforcing these ordinances that you're trying to put forth, does this mean that you're gonna be sending people to our properties on a regular basis? Where it's like, in terms of like cleaning the chicken coop, it's supposed to be done every couple of weeks. Are we gonna be sending people to our property every
No.
2 months to come look on our
No,
property?
we don't have the staff to do that, right? But that doesn't serve any purpose. I mean, it gives us an opportunity, like I said early on, to intervene when there's a problem with a particular situation, so that we can act judiciously, quickly. Using the state regulations, that could take quite a while.
So then, from what it sounds like I'm understanding, now, again, pardon me for being naive, and if I'm getting this out of context in any way, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I'm just trying to understand as best I can, and I'm
I
sure
understand.
everyone agrees that questions asked are always good, so everyone can hear, because maybe we're all thinking the same thing, maybe we're not. It seems like, from what I'm hearing, from what I've heard from discussions and everything, that a lot of these problems are coming from specific properties already that have these animals. That there's certain properties out there that are giving us issues, too many rats, not properly maintained, the animals aren't being. How is that affecting, how come that affects us all now and any future people
Well,
that
when
come in?
when you put in your permit, we're gonna understand what the situation is there. And
So-
we could probably advise you of potential shortfalls.
You're basically implying that the regulations you're trying to put forth are loose, that you're not going to enforce them 100% to anybody and everybody.
Well, we'll enforce them if there's an issue.
And-
We wanna believe that 90%, 99% of you are responsible animal keepers.
Right.
It's a lot like, as Danny knows, we don't go around and check everybody's septic system every year. We don't do that. We understand that there are situations, in the health regulations that we have to trust the people that we're dealing with our public.
Now, does that also apply to the new people that decide to, let's say someone moves into the town and then they decide, hey, I wanna have these animals, but then they have to follow these regulations to the T, or is it again gonna be considered that loose ordinance where they can do things depending on if they're fit regulation?
Well, actually, we've built in to the regulations a chance for, if you can't comply to the regulations, you can ask for variance. You can come to the Board of Health and explain, I really can't put my coop here because of X or Y, I can't do this. And if you give a sound reason, we'll work with you.
Okay.
I mean, that's, the whole idea here is, we don't wanna come down on the people. In fact, I know there's benefits for people having chickens. As somebody said, that it provides a food source. It actually is a green thing because the chickens can eat some scraps and it's not going into the waistline. We understand that. I understand that.
They eat the bugs.
They eat the ticks, you know, only if you got them and you can keep them on your property, you know, we don't want them running all over I had them running in my own neighborhood years ago, I had a guy had chickens and the chicken crapped on my car. It was standing on my car, you know, I mean, you know, if he kept his chickens there, I didn't care if they run around on his property, but, you know, on my car, really, I didn't need that, you know, so.
A couple more things and I'll be out of your hair, I promise. The other thing that I was just curious about is, in terms of enforcing these regulations, these rules, how is there, as this and topic of how we're going to enforce these rules? Like, what are we gonna do in terms of if someone does breach these ordinances that you're trying to set forth?
Well,
Is there a
what we
regulation
said
for that?
early on was that our goal is education,
Right,
okay? So
Which I
we
fully
would
agree.
try to educate and then, you know, bring the people to the table and say, hey, you know what? This is really a problem with your neighborhood. Your chicken is crowing all day long and it's disturbing the neighbor that has a baby, it's waking up the baby or something. But we would try to educate that, try to find a way to resolve the issue without going forward, right? I mean, and I found that most of the people that have animals are, they're decent folks. They, you know, to take care of an animal, you have to have some sort of ability to
right,
that.
but so then if people don't meet these ordinances, what are we gonna do? Are you gonna tell
So
them?
how about this?
The regulation does outline enforcement and penalty procedures, so it's
Okay,
written
perfect.
in the
Like I said,
regulation.
there's certain things that I've missed, and I'm apologize for my naivete.
Nope, that's fine.
I'm just trying to understand, because I've been listening to and I've been hearing a lot of things, and I try and keep an open mind to a lot of different things. From what I can understand, it seems like you guys are frustrated because there's no way for you to enforce certain things in terms of, let's say there's a complaint over the chickens, or let's say there's the rooster, or something's making too much noise, or something wanders onto someone else's property, how are you as Board of Health going to enforce this? It sounds like in the past when you've tried to, no one really listens to you. People
That's-
go,
Well, pretty
yeah,
much.
whatever your Board of Health.
So that, so
So
just
as
so you're
far as-
mindful, we're not doing the inspections.
I didn't
Like,
think,
the
I
whole
wasn't
system
saying
has
you were.
changed.
I know I'm not
It's
saying
very-
you are.
It's
Um,
very formal, and
my-
if a complaint gets filed, I worked for Inspectional Services in Worcester for 18 years. A complaint gets filed, anybody can file a complaint. I understand this is not Worcester, but whether it's housing, sanitation, animals, and a licensed person goes out to do that inspection. And if there's a violation, that doesn't mean it has to, the first order of business is to discuss that with the individual, the property owner, the tenant, the resident, explain what the violation is and whether or not it involves a property owner or a landlord, and this is what we need to do to remedy that. The hope is always that it's just civilized.
I mean, that is-
Unless, it can be an emergency, 24 hours, it could be the same with animals if they're at risk. Or it could be 3 days, it could be 10 days, it could be 30 days. If there's absolutely no effort to come to mediation or comply with the violation, then that's, hopefully, no one ever wants to get to that point. That enforcement point, issue would, again, to have the guidelines that Mr. Barrel is talking about to reference, not to be made up every time you go out and, as you will. There's either something in black and white, and those are the guidelines that inspectors need to have. It isn't, and my guess is that most of the folks in this room are all, the permitting thing about the $10 is one thing, but if you're taking good care of every animal you have and your property, there's, you're not gonna see anybody from, that's not gonna be an issue. It's only when a complaint would then somehow come into this department that would have to be looked into.
That
in
means
the
anyone
pro-
can, let's say someone just doesn't like the animals and they just don't like living next to the person, the animals, therefore then they can just sit there and complain. Now you're gonna be sending people into our properties to.
Okay, that
check the thing
actually
out.
happened.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that.
I'm just,
That actually happened here in town. And I, at that time, I went to the property. I saw the issue. I spoke to the person that made the complaint, and I spoke to the people that own the chickens. I looked at the coop. This is before we had regulations. Looked at the coop, and the person had no basis for the complaint, and we dismissed it. And in fact, at that time, Nancy was the TA. She actually went down as well, and she concurred with me that there was no basis for the complaint. And we told the complaining person that it didn't exist,
that's excellent.
okay?
So
So, I
that's-
mean,
that's
so
what
it's
I-
gone both ways.
Okay, I can
Okay.
understand that.
We've been both ways.
So it sounds like this is something,
Is there any
let me,
stipulation in there on the, if somebody keeps complaining to like have
what?
recourse?
Give me a second, let me finish and you can come up and do your thing. Just let me
I'm
finish.
not gonna-
I'm just saying, we're all trying to talk right now. If we all argue over each other, then nothing's gonna be said, no one's gonna hear
Thank you.
anything. So we all need to make sure we listen, hear people out.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have a lot to stand on. I'm new to this town. I don't know about all the regulations, laws, and how things work in terms of this town. I generally grew up in Worcester.
We're gonna learn. And Worcester doesn't allow chickens.
In Worcester, there's a lot of random things in Worcester that fit and don't fit and are just crazy. But coming to this town, I've noticed that a lot of the community here supports itself and works well with its neighbors. A lot of this place seems to have a good grasp on what they're doing as far as how they manage their animals and how they take care of. Again, like I said, it seems like a lot of this is coming through because there's been a couple of bad properties that people don't like that aren't taking care of their things properly. So my question is, it's not so much the regulations and the guidelines, what's gonna give you the ability to make sure that you feel like you can enforce the things you need to enforce without making everyone else fall into these regulations that are already doing a great job of what they're doing, and especially the new people that come in, they're going to, some of it says your chicken coop, your chickens are supposed to be so far apart.
We're gonna look at that.
I'm using it as an example, I understand that this is negotiable.
I have a list that we're
No,
gonna.
I understand it's negotiable, I've been watching you do this, and I've also been paying attention to that kind of stuff. So those are just my questions as far as that goes. I guess it basically covers everything I wanna say. One thing though, before you get up, your shoe is untied. I don't want you to trip when you stand up.
His shoes are always on.
I'm just saying, your shoe's untied.
I do that.
My fly is zipped, right?
Bob, if I can just briefly say one thing, I can't stay any longer, my husband's very ill.
I really can't stay too much.
I have
longer
to, I have to get home, I have to,
And
but
Mr.
again,
Peterson wants
Amy
an
Merrill, and I
opportunity.
just briefly wanted to say, kinda to the room. I think the impression has been given that your agricultural commission is a little bit lackadaisical and unresponsive. Not true. We are, I am, and as are these two ladies. And we are very responsive, we are here to help. You brought up the issue of education, I think that's well within our wheelhouse. That's what we're supposed to do.
absolutely.
Is educate. These are the kind of things that we've been eager all along to assist the Board of Health. We have worked many times with the regulations, but we have never been unresponsive. And as far as the one gentleman being called to assist on something, I think we just gotta have a better protocol, because calling one guy when somebody else said, somebody else could've said, hey, I'm available to help you, even though he's not available. I think we just gotta have a better protocol in place, so that if you wanna kick something over to us for an assist, I think I speak for the commission, that we would be happy to assist in that way. And I appreciate your respectful comments earlier regarding the AdCom. Thank you. We try so hard, and we're volunteers too.
Yeah, we're volunteers.
Yep, everybody's volunteer. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, Mr. Peterson?
This is more of a personal thing. I know you guys are, this is more for Annette. I've had a farm on Prospect Street. It's been there since the reservoir was built. It existed. It's been operational ever since. Did any of these rules apply to me?
I would have to understand what you, like, is your farm,
Commercial farm,
yeah, your
I
commercial
filed-
farm? No.
No.
It does
Okay,
not
so
apply.
somebody had mentioned I would have to buy a permit now. And in here, on D, section 1, it says, operations on commercial farms meeting the requirements are exempt from permits, so I don't have to get a permit.
Correct. If you're a commercial operation or you fall under right to farm, these regulations do not apply and you do not need a permit from the Board of Health. I can't say if there are state,
Oh,
Any-
believe me,
anything
I
state
have
that you
plenty.
do.
I have federal, I have state, I have DCR, I have my own insurance company.
but-
I have all of those people, so, just having another layer on top of everything I have, there's always the potential of like a 500-unit 40B coming, I don't want to do that. I want to hand it over to my daughter and my nieces. They're going to
Yep.
take over the property. And I want it to continue till they build another reservoir. But I just want to make sure that, I want to follow the rules, as we've worked with on the last little
yep.
trash,
Nope,
whatever.
commercial
And you're very
operations do not need a permit under this Board of Health regulation.
Okay.
Same if any of the right to farm, you meet that criteria, you do not need a permit from the Board of Health.
Okay.
If these regulations are,
And once these regulations are finalized, I'm hearing that this is going to be amended and changed and potentially, things are going to be different. Are you folks voting on this, or is this going to go before town meeting?
No, we're voting, regulation, it's a regulation, not a bylaw.
Okay.
So it doesn't
So
go before
you
town
you
meeting.
would vote on it here, so I don't have to bring breakfast to the next town meeting.
Well, you could bring me dinner.
Let me know what you want, Bob.
Just out of curiosity, what are the state regulations for your barn for stall size?
Stall size is long, is big enough, for our horses to be able to comfortably stand up and sit down, but for this, stable
All my
licensure.
stalls are not built.
I gotta get out of
we,
here.
we've heard that point that we need to do more research on that, so we appreciate folks
Where you
bringing
going?
that to our attention.
Okay.
Hi there, Rich Simorano, 98 Shrewsbury Street. I just want to make an observation, but I'll make a statement first. So we've all discussed that there's a lot of issues with this draft as it is.
There are some Some issues.
questions about things that need to be changed. So you're not, are you planning on voting on it tonight, or are
No.
you planning? No, okay.
No, not at
So I
all.
think a lot of people were concerned on whether it was gonna be run on through tonight or whatever, so.
No, that's not, and we earnestly are gonna take the suggestions that we've had here. And like I said before, I'd like to get the dog officer, or the, whatever her name is.
So
Animal control person here, so we can iron this out.
just from an observational standpoint, even though I do have vested interest, I think, yeah, we need to, as a town, come together and work with each other, and I definitely would like to see the animal officer in. I'd obviously like to see a continued work with the AdCom, whatever, and I just, I know my history. He said gentleman says he had cows, and I remember as a kid, cows roaming Prospect Street out of their pen all the time, so I'm wondering if that's the same, those are the same cows.
He's got them fenced in. Right, Dennis?
That's right.
He's got them fenced in.
Okay, but, so, yeah, I mean, you know, I would love to live in a town, and our motto is, you know, small town, big heart. There's not a lot of that. You don't come in across that too often. And I've lived in town for a very long time. My mother served here in town for many years. It would be great for us as neighbors to come together. I know you would like to have a little bit more control, and I don't think anyone denies that you should have some say in how things go, if it can all be worked out together. So I just wanted to make that observational thing. People that serve on boards and committees are tireless and unthanked and usually yelled at and screamed at, and I appreciate your guys' time to
Well,
address these
thank you,
things.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I would like to conclude this hearing at this point. Actually, I want to continue the hearing to our next meeting.
And when is that?
When will that be? The second, our second admin isn't here tonight, so.
What are you guys usually the
Third
third
Wednesday?
Wednesdays?
Yes.
Second Wednesday's planning board, so you
So-
know this room. Third Wednesday.
Third Wednesday would be tax day, April 15th.
April 15th. Okay?
Thank you.
So that, I want to close the meeting, so I have to have a vote to do that?
Motion.
Continue the
Motion to
meeting.
continue the public hearing
Do
until
I have a
April
second?
15th.
I second
All in
that.
favor? Aye. Okay, that's done. We're gonna do,
Finish
what-
our,
whatever else we got left.
Yeah, couple things. Thank you.
Stay, there's more interesting things.
No, there isn't. Nice to see you. You're gonna work in voting?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
Steve neighbors had chickens. They were letting the chickens run free. One day I woke up and I looked, there was a chicken in the mouth of a coyote.
How many goats do you have?
Chickens went down the street. The coyote chased them. I don't know how many chickens they lost. But they fenced the chickens in after that.
Yeah, definitely happens.
Another time, same.
Okay, let's do whatever we're doing here. So we can get
All right, sorry guys, we are continuing our meeting. If you could just, be mindful of that. All right, so a couple of other just quick updates I want to give in terms of nursing report. Flu is going down. There have been 2 disease investigations in West Boylston, not traced back to any food establishments. Bridget's continuing her nurses' hours at the Council on Aging the second Wednesday of every month from 1 to 3. She's had really good turnout. On April 15th, Bridget's been working with Shaw's Pharmacy, they're gonna be hosting a COVID booster with the Council on Aging from 9 to 12.
What day is that?
It's gonna be April 15th.
COVID booster?
COVID booster clinic. So the CDC guidance states that all eligible patients age 65 and plus are due for an additional 2025 to 2026 COVID booster. So that happens 6 months after your shot. There will also be other vaccines available, but you have to pre-register. So keep an eye out at the senior center for sign up on that. April 23rd, Bridget will be hosting a tick presentation at the Council on Aging at 11:30 a.m. Just talking about general tick safety and what to do if you get bit by a tick. So quick update on that. The one thing I do want to talk a little bit about, and I definitely won't take time, is just an update on some of the opioid work that we've been doing.
I'd like to hear that.
So we held our listening session and had a really great turnout, so we appreciate everybody who came, and I think we had a really open discussion.
That was the night of the storm?
It was the night of the storm, and we still had a really good turnout. So
Yeah.
impressed by that. Based on all that feedback, our partner, the Coalition for a Healthy Greater Worcester, developed a final report that we just got last Friday that pulled together the key themes. So we conducted that in both Shrewsbury and West Boylston, and we found really strong alignment around some of key investment opportunities to support individuals who are impacted by the opioid epidemic. So some of those areas are increasing access to resource navigators and recovery coaches, supporting transportation and housing costs, and increasing public education and youth prevention programs. So we will be sending out that full report to all of the board members. It's like a 39-page, so I didn't want to go through all of it.
Wow.
But making sure that you get it, it's going to be posted on the website. And then our next opioid meeting is on March 31st. And so we'll also be presenting a little bit more information at that meeting. One of the things that has come out of these listening sessions is the health department's going to be making a recommendation to the opioid committee on how to best utilize the funds based on the public input we got. And so one of the things that I've been looking at, and I know I've been talking to the police, is we're really looking to support what we call a post-overdose program. So that's 48 to 72 hours after, somebody interacts with the police, whether it's from a mental health concern or a substance use concern. Somebody will reach out to them or their family to help provide connection to resources. We've talked a lot to Advocates, who is one of the primary providers of these services in the area, and they indicated they do, within this program, there's also case management involved. So they may work with somebody, for up to 6 months to help them, if they seek treatment, do follow-up, help connect to a mental health provider. And so that's something that I know the community at large, through these listening sessions, really expressed a desire to invest in. So
Didn't the woman that goes with Grafton, she's from Advocates? Clinician that does the ride along?
Yes, so Grafton has a very similar program in place. They're part of the Blackstone Valley post-overdose, so it's a regional collaborative. One of the things is it's not financially feasible for West Boylston to take that on your own, and you don't have the call volume. So what I'm going to be proposing is that West Boylston, with the health department alignment, you have to renew your intermunicipal agreement for your basic public health services. To incorporate also substance use prevention services. And one of those pieces will be exploring and working on a regional approach to that post-overdose response program. And so, we'll work on a budget of what a one-year budget might look like, and work with Shrewsbury to see if we can have a regional program with Shrewsbury and West Boylston to offer those services. And what that will do is allow your funds to be sustainable to support this ongoing. If it costs about $50,000 to $75,000 a year to staff this position through Advocates. It depends on their education level, but based on the funds that West Boylston is receiving from the opioid settlements, that would only provide about 2 to 3 years of funding for that position. So if we look at this one-year intermunicipal agreement to do substance use prevention programming, it will allow us to develop a more sustainable program that will serve West Boylston's needs. The proposal is gonna include that this group is gonna be governed by a joint committee. So instead of having our 2 work groups, we're gonna have a joint committee that has 3 representatives from each community. My recommendation is that 1 is a Board of Health member from each community. And then we're gonna have a 4th advisory level member that will be a community member, so somebody who lives in the community. So they can be sure to provide that continuous feedback to ensure that we're programming these funds out and meeting community needs, and they can help be that liaison between community priorities and the decision makers for how these funds are programmed. So I wanted to make sure to talk to you as the Board of Health first before bringing this to the meeting on the 31st. To see, what your thoughts are, if there are feedback that we can make sure that, this approach seems like it will be representative and it will work for West Boylston. The great thing is it's a 1-year intermunicipal agreement, so it's kind of like a pilot program. It won't be all of your funds. We'll just budget out what 1 year of what our proposal looks like and do, a cost share. So you wouldn't even be paying 50% of that 1 year cost. It would be proportional. And I think that we've been finding that it's very difficult to manage these 2 different work streams with our current staffing levels. And I think the way that we can do it so that we're responsive to the needs and we're making progress is by combining them. And where the priorities are so closely aligned, I think that we'll see a lot of really valuable outcomes from that.
I don't know what we'd do without you.
Go ahead.
You're weight in gold, truly.
I was just wondering, is there a way we can find out how many times that the police have to respond to overdose?
Yeah, the fire department actually sent over some of their data, and I know Tom is working to dig into their data as well, because it does drive, like if we were to contract with advocates, they use that data to develop the program. So let me see.
Did you read about Worcester getting sued, the Worcester Police?
No.
3 different entities. My head's a little in a whirl, but they're suing the Worcester Police Department specifically for not having clinicians as part of their response teams.
It seems that more
They're
and more.
treating mental health issues like
Without
criminal
any-
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. But you know what, and obviously, no different than our small town, a 911 call is a 911 call, and they're gonna go.
Yeah.
And then when they're faced with that, though,
Yeah.
there's been an awful lot of shootings.
Yeah, sometimes it's something they have to react to instantaneously. They can't say, hello, could you send a mental health person here? We'll try to hold off the suicide.
Right.
Worcester
could have one, though. They're busy.
What, would they shoot them?
What about
you never
that
know,
poor
my
kid
dear.
in
So
Westminster?
I do have some, I just pulled them up. So from 2025, Fire provided us their opioid-related encounters. He said they've moved to a new system, so it's maybe not fully complete, but 20 encounters, 5 naloxone administrations.
Is that in a year period?
It appears to be for 2025. So your numbers
20?
are.
20.
It's not many.
2025 is low, so that's why like a solitary program isn't sustainable.
No.
Now, this does not account for mental health concerns. This is simply opioid, whatever they coded as an opioid related. So the post-overdose response could also assist with mental health concerns. So, that number would be greater. But I think it illustrates.
It's opioid money, so if it's mental health, it's.
It falls under prevention, because we know that folks who have mental health concerns are more likely to also either have a co-occurring substance use disorder or develop a substance use disorder. So it fits within the spending guidelines, and I think it's a resource that we're hearing is definitely needed by the community.
Yeah, I think the chief indicated that at our last.
Yeah, and we've met with him a couple of times.
The acting chief.
The acting chief.
They extend his contract?
They extended the acting chief.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Was the regular chief still on medical leave, or is he
Yeah,
retired?
evidently.
So I'd love to hear if you have any other feedback for this before I bring it to the
I think
work group.
it's a wonderful idea, just.
Before you bring it to
forward
what?
The opioid work group on the 31st. So that's the group that's been, Board of Health, a couple Board of Health members, police, fire, library,
It's the one we attend.
yeah. The greater group. And so essentially then, once, if you all as the Board of Health feel this is a good idea, I'm gonna bring it to that group to get their consensus, and then, we'll have to, then I'll bring it to Shrewsbury. But I know I've talked to the town manager, and he thinks that it's a great option as well for us
Would
to
you be able
support
to
this
forward us any little
Yes.
synopsis of
Yes,
that? Just to
absolutely.
maybe review it tomorrow and not,
Yeah, because my head is full.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's,
boy, oh boy.
I knew
You
that it
do
was
a
gonna
lot.
be a tough sell. So I will absolutely do that, and then once you have a chance to look it over, give me a call, and we can work by consensus that way. If this is something you want to pursue, I think it's a good option to make sure that your funds are impactful and sustainable.
yep, okay.
And if we don't spend our funds, there was some rumor a while ago that the state was gonna take them back, right?
Oh, you gotta spend what you're given.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely wanna use them. I haven't heard that, but, we wanna make sure that they're benefiting West Boylston residents.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I'll bore you with. I think everything else can wait till next
Thank you.
meeting.
Okay,
So,
that's great.
can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you
Can we
for
have a second?
everything you
All in
did.
favor? Aye.